Okay, so now it's time to finish off the hand model by creating the other fingers and as well as the thumb. So to do that, all we need to do is just, since we already have a finger here, or the index finger has been already modeled, so all we need to do is just select the polygons there, and then just go to your edit mesh, and then please choose duplicate. Press Q, and then go back to object selection, and then you are able to duplicate that set of polygons for the index finger. Press W for the move tool. So as you can see, your move tool is somewhere there. It is still in the orientation of the palm or the whole hand model. So what you do is you just go to your tool settings, click the two resets so that it will be at the center of the object. Close that, and now you have this. So you have those duplicates. So what I will do next is I will slightly scale this a little bit at this center part. All right. So because I'm going for the middle finger, and then I'll press W to reposition it a bit there. So let's say that's going to be for the middle finger. And then I can just hold shift, click and drag, raise this up a little bit, and then do another scaling. This one is for the ring finger. I can also do a slight, right? A slight rotation. But if you see that there's a distortion happening, no, when I slightly rotate it here, see the distortion, it's not aligning well. So what I will do is I will go to sub-object or component selection. I'll select the whole polygon, and then that's when I will do my rotation there. W for move there. So that avoids the distortion as I do the rotation. So next one, yep, that's the size of that. I'll hold shift and drag for the pinky. I'll press R, and then I'll just do another scale. Shift click drag, just drag W carefully. Again, polygon or face selection, and then I'll do my scaling there. W, oops, sorry, I'll move it as an object here. Press R and then scale it up a bit there. So now that we have all of those fingers selected, just slightly spacing them properly, doing the spacing just a little bit so that I can see how the polygons are spaced. Okay, so next I'll just select all. So that means the main hand model and then the fingers or the finger duplicates, so that after we select all of them, we can go for combine. And once we have them combined, now we can do the following. First is select your face components or face polygon selection. Click this face here, pressing Q for selection only. Hold shift and select the next one. And then I can press delete. Now do not delete this yet, because you will need all of these loop of edges. So you have there 6, right? Because you will need those 6 edges to bridge with this other 6 edges. Okay, so I'll just, any of the two, you can select any of the two first. I'll select that, hold shift, I'll double click this, and I have that. And then I'll just do another bridge. Q there to exit the bridge. Now I'll just repeat that here. Select and select, delete. Back to edges, double click, that's the loop, double click, and then we just do another bridge. Okay. And then I'll press Q, back to face selection, delete those two faces again, switch to edges, and then just do another bridge. Q, and there we have it. We have the initial finger base, or the bases for the fingers. So if, sorry, you can further do some tweaks in the adjustment. I'll use the lasso tool, for example. If this is appearing too twisted to me or a bit awkward, right, that angle, I'll just select the entirety of those edges or vertices, and then I'll just carefully press E, rotate, D, carefully adjust that, and then I'll just adjust this. Oops, sorry. D to turn that off, and I can rotate it this way. Yeah, that's a great feature here in Maya. Okay, so there you have that. Saving work, spacebar. So now let's go for the thumb. Okay, so in doing the thumb, if you will observe, it will be coming out from two sides, meaning it will come out from this side of the polygon of the palm, and then this side also. Okay, so those two sides is where the thumb is to originate. But before you do that, so that you will be having a backup here, right? I'll just press this. Before you do that, you can set this aside. So this is already a progress, so I can name this later. I'll just press W, position it here just like what we do usually, shift drag, and then here I'll just rename this hand underscore fingers. So this is the base with fingers, and then I can just select all of them, edit, delete all by type history, saving the work, and then I can hide this. So once more, I am on my working file here. Let me type in 0 on the x-axis, and let's check the front, orthographic front view there. I'll just slightly move this 0 on the x-axis or 0 on the y-axis. Oops, sorry for that. 0. No, I'll just position my hand model that way. Okay, so now that I have this done here, it's time to bring out the thumb. So as you can see, the thumb is going to be coming out on two sides. One is this front side here. It's where the thumb actually is being seen, but also it will come out on another side, such as, let's say, the palm side here. So those are the two locations where your thumb or your character's thumb is going to be coming at. So once you have selected those two parts, all you need to do is just do a simple extrude, right? So there's the direction. I can press Q. So that means the polygon is already present. I will be the one to manually bring it out. So I can press W for move tool. And then I'll select this intersection part, right? This part. Or I can select this part also, right? I can click that. Then I can drag it on a certain direction or on an angular direction where the thumb is going to be sticking out. After I've done that, of course, the best thing to do now is to reshape this like the other fingers that we have. So what I'll do is I'll hold shift, right click, and then I'll just use circularize. And after I have circularized the components here, yep, now I can press Q, or sorry, I can press R, and then I can scale this inwards. Scaling this inwards now resizes the thumb, right? I can press E, and I can carefully rotate this to face. Okay, so now I will try to align this with the reference. So if you're getting confused, you can easily shift control I. Oops, shift control I. Oops, I cannot invert the selection that way. Control I, it's not happening. So what I'll do is I'll just select all of this, and then pressing Q, I'll deselect this via control double click there, and then I'll also switch, hold control and deselect them with this there. So now I have all of my character stump polygon. I can press Control H and hide the rest. So now I can carefully use the move tool and drag along these reference locations that I have. Right? It's a bit twisty or twisted, but following it carefully usually helps out the form. Next is, for example, I think that's the limit on this side, but let's select the polygon first here, and then I will just use the move tool to carefully position it, combining it with the rotate tool. There. Carefully just aligning it. Okay, so now we're aligned with that. The next thing is I'll just reposition it this way. Yeah. That. Okay, so next is here. I'll go to panels, orthographic, and let's go to the front, let's say. That's our position earlier. So here at the front, it's a bit confusing, right? So, but you just have to keep in mind the polygon's position. So that's this here. Right? So let's put this on see-through mode, turning off there. So at least I can see the planes in transparency. And then let's just adjust that a little bit. Okay, next is these locations here. So I want that, and then this one. Yeah. Okay, and then let's say this. Let's try that. Oops. Here. And then let's follow the reference alongside here. Let's try. Okay. And then here is going to be at the back. So I'll just position that there. Right? Let's see. Okay. Okay. So next is the polygon, the facing or orientation of the polygon here. So let's say I'll press E. I can switch this to tools, and I can switch that to component. So this means it will align in accordance to how, right, the polygon is facing. That means the tool, the rotate tool, because that's the one I set. Okay, pressing E. So let's say I don't want this twisting, just want it to be like that. Okay, so a bit more, yes, like this. Yeah. W for move, carefully. There. And then Q, I'll do an extrude and drag. Dragging along. Let's say that. E to rotate it carefully. R to rescale and resize. Okay. Okay. And then Q, do another extrude. W for move. Oops, sorry. Is this extrude? Okay. So now I'll just do another extrude, dragging it forward further there. Q or R, I can rescale it now once more. Okay. And then one last extrusion, Q, extrude. This is for the fingertip or the nail area. R, scale inwards. There. So next is, I'll just go here, panels, orthographic, and then I'll just, let's say, go to the palm side there. Okay, so this is where the twisting is. So I'll just press double click here, W. Oops, let me just include the polygons. There. So for example, I want to move this freely here, because if I do that, it's going to be affected by the distortions, right? So what you can do is something like this. You can try and just do a edit mesh, and let's try to detach, and then mesh, let's try to separate. So what happens there is you have detached this as a separate object. Okay, so that's fine. I'll just go here, reset tool, close, and now I will just carefully rotate this E. I'll just switch, oops, sorry, there. But let's rotate it accordingly onto our reference, something like that. Yeah, W for the move there. So let's say it rotates that way. Okay, so since it is rotating that way now, it needs to connect to this one properly. So now what I can do is I can select this and I can delete that, right? And then I can switch to the vertex selection here, and I can carefully do the rotation on this one, right? W. And after I've done that rotation, after I've done so, I select this, and then I just go to my combine, so that I can select this, go to my polygon selection, double click the other, shift and double click the other loop, and do a bridge there. Pressing Q, we have that, and so that we can avoid, or it's a bit twisted, I can press E and I can carefully untwist it with a simple rotational tweak. Okay, so one last is, oops, let me just select this also. Doesn't loop underneath. Press E. Okay, there. Okay, so one last is, of course, the location of the fingernails, which is going to be this. If I switch to my panels, orthographic, and go to the front view, there it is. So now I can just double click this, press R, and start my rescaling and resizing of it. And then I can select this, W for move. I can use an edge slide so that I can move it along there and flatten that up. Okay, then I'll just undo that. So now I have that thumb, Shift H. So now we have the thumb model added also. Pressing 3, so after we have the thumb reconstructed, I mean the thumb added or modeled, pressing 1. So last part on the modeling of this is, I'll just go to edit, delete all by type history on that, and then I'll just select the rest of these so that they will appear. So now I can just have this as a progress. I'll move it here again, hold shift, drag it here. So this is going to be hand thumb, for example. Hand thumb, that is saved. And now this I will start to Control H. Now this one I will start to deblock. Yeah, because the obvious thing here is this thumb that I have this object that I have here right now is too blocky for a hand or an organic part. So what I'll do is I'll just double click, for example, this part of the edges there, let's see. So that one, let me just bring that out a bit for the curvature of the palm, right, or the curvature of the black or the back of the hand. Pressing number 2, right, so if usually it rises that way, and then 1 also there. Let's turn on the edge slide so that when we adjust there the palm parts, we are still within the surface, or we are snapping along the surface or gliding along it. Now this one I can just adjust edge slide here, there. Okay. Next is I will go for the roundness of this. So you can use the edge selection and you can just carefully select those edge corners. Go for your edge slide here, there. So it starts to slide along like that. And then I'll just drag this down, right? So it slides along, and then I can select it also again, and I can push it inwards this time. So if I press number 2, so now it is not that cornered or hard chiseled effect is not there anymore. Then I'll just select this, I'll just drag this inwards and then push it backwards to further round that corner. I'll do the same here at the what they usually call the blade of the hand, that part. So again, just pushing it inwards here and then pushing it backwards here to create that angle once more, right? That is needed by the hand to have that roundness effect. And then here also, let me select that, shift and drag, and then let me push it inwards, dragging down there, and then here, careful. So, but still, this is just a base of the hand. That means this still can be detailed, or you can still detail this, right, in accordance to however it is going to be rigged. So you can detail it further, because I have not yet added, right, the multiple joints or multiple edges and vertices for the joints that the hands have. So here, pressing 1. So now this is the base for our character's hand. So I'll see you in the next lesson when we attach this to our character.